The Wests Tigers podcast is brought to you by the Wests Tigers Podcast Forum. Join the conversation today at weststigerspodcast.com.au.
It's West Tigers podcast. Eddie joined by Nick and I was going to say Gary. I'm so used to saying Gary. It's not Gary. It's Declan.
How dare you?
I shouldn't. No big orange beard looking at me square in the face, Declan. So 36-2 to the Panthers. We've had 48 hours to digest that. Declan, what's your one word?
My one word is recycling bin, because I think that's the performance that I will try to forget as soon as possible after we're done recording this podcast. It was just a dull affair. I was in a pub in Melbourne in the corner watching it during the rugby, and I think I was the only one at the pub screaming above the music, so it was just terrible. But my other one word would just be really uninspiring, because we just couldn't insert our will or our any sort of imprint into the game, and the Panthers dictated pretty much every single facet of the game, barring the first 10 minutes maybe, if I'm being generous. But other than that, it was complete domination from Penrith, who were pretty much in control and dictating the game the entire time, which was not good to see, obviously.
I wasn't in a pub in Melbourne, Declan, but I was in a pub, and I was sort of in that mode, maybe like you were. I was watching it without really watching it, because I just thought we're just absolutely no chance here the way they're playing. So I actually rewatched the game today, which I rarely do on a Monday. But Nick, your one word.
My one word, Eddie, is coma, because I'd really like someone to put me into an induced coma until the 7th of September, which is the day after we play the Titans in round 27. So unfortunately, it just feels like it's Groundhog Day, right? I just feel like we're at that point in the season again where, and it's probably dragged out a little bit longer this season, where we're not going to play finals. And I'm afraid that the effort is going to get a little bit too difficult over the next 4 to 5, 6 weeks to finish off the season, and I'm just worried about what might be to come. So ideally, I'd like to go into a long sleep pattern, Eddie, and wake up just as the weather's starting to get a bit warmer and days are getting longer, and can get out on the golf course and not have to worry so much about the West Tigers.
I've always told you, Nick, how good off seasons are. September. Can't wait.
I love the off season, Eddie. Love it.
Thank you for everyone's submissions on the West Tigers forum. I reckon it's a record amount of submissions, because I was writing them all down the Savo. So what I'll do is I'll read out half of them now, and I'm going to read out the other half halfway through the podcast. Started with Snake, my man Snake. He went with reserves. We're not going anywhere, Snake said, when we've got so many reserve graders. Dirty Reds went with speed. Panthers are on a different level in terms of ruck speed, line speed, and ball movement. Erwood Tiger said rudderless. Farmer Rondo, directionless, clueless. Mike said slow in terms of line speed, kick, chase, play the ball, attack. Spoon Race is back on, he said, with the two bottom sides winning, and on the Richo meter, we were poor. Nat Max 78. Word was variety. We have none of it with the ball in attack. Wagga Tiger said done, D-O-N-E, until there are changes, I'm done. He said we keep buying and extending the wrong players. We need quicker guys that can run harder. Mac Tiger's word was Taylor ball. We played right into their hands. Tigers 2, TU, went with gear. We could not get out of first gear. LFC Tiger said gutless. He said he switched it off with 10 minutes to go. There was no go forward, no kick chase. 3 wins in a row with this club, he said, is going to be impossible. Doesn't like the cattle, but Benji is not helping us with his game plans. Tigers 51-50. Simply said outclassed. The robotic machine of Penrith was back, but he did say we never gave up, and Taruva was incredible. Canberra Tiger's word was rocks. He said we have too many rocks and diamonds type of players. Mentioned Adam Dewey, Alex Twile, Stafford Toa, Seyfarth, Staines, Bird, and he said even Polo's going a little bit that way. Lorenzo went with two TWO. We need two backs for Skelton and Toa, and we need two forwards for Satharth, Twile, and AD. Declan, the last 10 weeks, the last 10 games, I should say, because there's been a million buys and whatnot going on. We've only won two of them, and they've been by 1 and 2 points. So if I was to do the form ladder over that past 10 weeks, would we be the worst side in that period? Perhaps the way we're playing?
I'm not prepared to go that far. I think that we've had conversations about how, although in that losing streak we were losing the games, obviously, that if a thing or two went our way, then you could walk away with a few more wins. So I don't think we would be the worst team. Like, we'd definitely be bottom four, probably. I think that's probably a fair assumption. But I think there have been like a few teams a little bit worse than us, but probably clutching at straws a little bit. And like, we haven't been great and probably deserve to be bottom four at this point.
Sort of some different narratives going on at the moment, Nick, with a lot of those sides that are jostling in that bottom 6 or 7. But it is, I know it's not easy to compare game to game and week to week and looking at three different sides. But the first time we played the Warriors, we went down on the bell. And the first time we played the Panthers, we pushed them for 80 minutes. And the second time we played both those sides, we've been whacked.
Yeah, we have been. That game on the weekend against the Panthers, we did get whacked. And just thinking about Joel's favorite word, physicality. Like we were, like Declan said, we had a real go early. I thought the first 20 minutes wasn't too bad actually, and when we, got in front with that penalty goal, there was a part of me that thought, okay, we're ahead on the scoreboard, and the other part thought, okay, how long until Penrith score and it starts flooding the other way? But the longer that game went on against the Panthers, we just got dominated physically, which takes me back to Joel's word. But yeah, every team just seems to have it over us physically. The power game we just seem to lack, and like I think Declan, you said that the speed of our game was quite slow, and I know we've spoken about the play the ball speed over several pods not in the not too or not too long ago. So we do seem a little bit sluggish, and it just seems like we don't have the stamina to go with a lot of these bigger, faster teams either. So. We're definitely being dominated, and I think that's just starting to show on the scoreboard a bit too. We just can't keep up with a lot of teams.
I think that the most like disappointing thing for me was that we just couldn't create anything like in the middle of the field with like ball playing or like damaging runs or anything like that because we have too many kind of work rate forwards who like on their own are like quite reliable defenders, but no one that you can really say, oh, you give him the ball, he's either going to like break a tackle or he's going to poke his head through and get a quick play of the ball. Like we just don't really have anyone in that forward pack right now that can do it consistently. I think Fanua Pole, he's probably the closest thing you have to that kind of player, but unfortunately he has been a little bit inconsistent this season, if not a little bit disappointing in the last few weeks. Like I think he turned it on a little bit against the Gold Coast in the second half, but it's not to the point where you need it to match teams like Penrith. Like Leota was like that. Even that Penrith player from off the bench, I don't even know his name. He's a rookie, but he came on and he like nearly, he pretty much nearly ran like 40 meters to score a try. He just burst through a line, and they just have a lot more balance in their team. And then when we weren't able to score off structure, no backline moves or anything like that. But then we also weren't able to create anything ourselves off like off the cuff play because we don't have those athletes to make the chances for us at the moment.
Nick, I'll ask Declan. Oh, sorry, I'll ask you a similar question that I asked Declan. I'll just sort of rephrase it. Are we going backwards
Are we
compared to
going
earlier this
backwards?
season, compared to the first 10 weeks to this last 10 weeks?
I definitely don't think we're the team that started the year, and I guess it's probably easy to when you're starting round one, everyone's level pegging on 0 points. So you're not climbing a ladder. You're starting at neck and neck, and you're seeing how you can go the first 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, whether you can compete. And I remember very early in the season saying if we could get to Origin about 50-50, then I think we're in a really good spot, and we'd pretty much done that. And then the wheels fell off. I can't argue with you, Eddie. I think we are going backwards. I think maybe a lot of that too has to do with just the confidence of the boys and the inexperience to be able to compete for long periods of time. we've shown over quite a few seasons. I know we haven't won many games prior to this year in the last few years before that, but we've shown we can perform for 2 or 3 weeks at a time and win some games against good opposition. But then we fall in a heap and fall off the radar, and we haven't had as many blowout losses this year compared to previous years. Only that huge one against the Storm. I'm worried what might happen this week against the Dogs, and we'll get to that a bit later. But yeah, I can't disagree, Eddie. Which is why also I'm looking towards the end of the season. I think the whole club needs to reset. I think we've shown some improvement this year, but yeah, I'm worried for what might come over the next 6 weeks. I just don't want it to fall off the cliff and have all of that hard work just thrown in the garbage bin, leading into next season.
I think it's a tough question because I think the thing with like the really good NRL teams is that they improve from the start of the year, and that's maybe why we managed to pinch some of those early games because like teams aren't starting at their peak, but obviously we put a lot into starting well, being a struggling club because that's kind of what you need to do. So I don't necessarily think that we've had a massive regression from the start of the year. I just think that other teams have either gotten better or just hit form and they've went well past us to the point that we look worse than at the start of the year. But in reality, other teams are just playing better, and we're playing teams that are going to be playing finals footy that have timed their run really, really well, and they're just too classy for us at the moment. It's what happened with Penrith. It'll probably be what happens with the Bulldogs, unfortunately. But yeah, it is what it is.
We did have a reasonably favourable draw at the start of the year too. I know we played a lot of teams that weren't expected to be, in that top half of the ladder early on, and now we're sort of, back end starting to come up against a lot of the teams that are above us, and we'll be playing finals. So maybe that helps to, get us off on the right foot early on in the season, and maybe that's hindering us coming home too. But yeah, it's a long year, isn't it? It's a long year when you keep missing the eight.
Been a long 5 years
I
doing
don't
this podcast.
I don't totally disagree with both you guys' points about sort of stronger clubs being asleep at the start of the season and like Penrith taking their time to get into gear. But Declan, why shouldn't we improve? Why should
Well,
we get better throughout the season? You're saying, I know you're thinking we're not going backwards, but why should we stagnate or not improve like other teams throughout the season, just
but
on our level?
Well, because other teams have the luxury of having the same team from like round one to now, but we've chopped and changed so much. I think we talked about it last week how we had different halves combinations who are playing different roles. We haven't had massive injuries, but we've had like a spine player here out for a few weeks, a spine player there out for a few weeks. So like we've just had no like runs on the board. Well, obviously we did when Galvin was here, but when he left, and that drastically changed our entire attack. Everyone is now in a new role. Maybe besides Bula, who's probably going to come back and play on that right side. But Lua had to change his game. You have to bring in Latu Finder, who's another rookie. He finds his feet as well. And then all of a sudden, your edges are different. Your left edge is different. So I just think that a part of the reason why we haven't we haven't seen much improvement is because we've just had to make so many like running repairs throughout the season. And yes, obviously there's like other things like the maybe like attitude and defense that definitely could be better, like one-on-one efforts, like particularly with Starford Toa and Skelton against Penrith on the weekend. But I do think there is, if you were to look at like within the four walls of Concord, like I think like combinations would be a big reason as to why we haven't seen that gradual improvement. Not to say that we've been on par with other top eight teams, but I do think if it was a more settled like combination playing squad, we would be playing a little bit better.
I'll give you the Galvin one because that there's no doubt like that was a big distraction. And not just a distraction, taking out one of your spine players you would have trained with 3 or 4 months of preseason. A lot of the attack revolved around him. He was getting more ball than Luai, and all of a sudden, 8 weeks in, he's ripped out of your team and gone. That is a big thing with all the media and stuff that comes with it. But Nick, I'm not buying the injuries one. I'm just not. I looked at clubs' injuries today. South Sydney got a whole team out. The Dolphins have got 8 out.
Yeah.
Roosters have got 8 out. Warriors have got 2 of their best players out. Our casualty ward at the moment is Doreen Buller, who's back this week. And there's one other injury. I think Samuel Afina was the only other injury. So we currently have the least amount of injuries in the competition. And I would say well done to Peter Musa and the performance staff there at Concord because I think in general this season we've been able to run out most of our top 17 most weeks, Declan.
Well, I just disagree with that because I'm not saying that the injuries are why they haven't been playing well. I'm just saying that there's been like a little like unfortunate injury to one player who's missed a chunk of time on the sideline, and he comes back, and then another person gets missed. So, for example,
But like how
like
many
look,
clubs could say that? Every club in the NRL could say that, couldn't they?
well, like you look at the Raiders, and they've like pretty much had like a pretty consistent spine going through the whole time. Like I don't really remember any of them getting injured, and like I think that like I get what you mean. It is a part of the game. Injuries are something you have to deal with, but I'm just saying like, oh, why haven't we improved? And that's just why I think we haven't improved because we just haven't gotten the runs on the board. I think that Luai missed a little bit of time at the start of the year with that shoulder injury, then with Origin. Billy's been out with that hamstring injury. We lost Galvin. Latches coming back from injury also. He like barely plays the first half of the season. Appy's pretty much been the only like fully fit spine player we've had. Like I'm not saying that we've been hard done by injuries, but I'm just saying that this stuff impacts the team and the cohesion of the team. When, as you said, they ripped out like their most high percentage usage player of the ball in Galvin, and the other guys just haven't had the reps together, let alone a preseason either. And it's not an excuse because they need to do better than that, especially against Penrith, where it just looked hopeless. But that's just how I feel about it.
Okay. No, I just look at other spines, Nick, and I know they've got stronger rosters, but I look at the Warriors, they're missing Metcalf. They've continued to win games. I know they didn't win on the weekend. Bulldogs have now got Galvin at halfback. Other teams have had distractions through Origin. I just think compared to like a Parramatta who's had Mitchell Moses out for 10 or 12 weeks, I actually think we've had a reasonable run, taking out that Galvin, left the club because that is a big one. But I still think, at the end of the day, that playing squad of 30, there's still a lot of work to do on it.
Yeah, a lot of work. And I know, like Declan said, we did talk about this last week as well. I know that the core group has probably stayed fairly stable over, however many rounds of 21 or so rounds of footy that we've played. But like Declan said, there's been a lot of musical chairs on the field, and it happened again on the weekend. I didn't even realize. It took me a while to realize when Latu got taken off for a rest and Dewey shifted into the halves alongside Jerome. Like a lot, that stuff happens every week.
That's
And I
like
get it.
that's true, Nick. But is that coach's problem or injuries?
Well, no, that would be a coaching decision. I don't know about a problem, and I get it that Benji was probably looking for an alternate, way of playing because we weren't getting anywhere against the Panthers doing what we were doing. So no, I don't think we've been smashed by injuries. I'm actually looking at the round one team that we put on the park against Newcastle, and it's funny because our sides are quite different. There's about 50% of our starting team there that didn't play for us against the Panthers on the weekend, albeit I think Appy was suspended round one.
Buller was
I
injured.
think Buller was injured. Yeah, there were a few issues there early on in the season, but yeah, like I said, we've had the same fairly big core of players playing. I don't think we have as many key players as a lot of other teams do in those key positions. And when we do have someone out like Buller over the last few weeks, like and Sam Faino as well, like that creates a massive impact in the way that we play. So, Buller's a huge impact in our attack. Um, and even Sam Faino, like Gary's been saying quite a few times recently, that Sam Faino has been really looking pretty dangerous with his combination out there on that left side, and he's been hitting a lot of half holes and very nearly getting through. So he's looking like he's improved over the course of this season, but just hasn't quite got there. But a lot of chop changing. Hopefully, we can get settled around one team next year and maybe have a bit more stability as next season goes on. And we need something to build off. So I just see all this chop changing, like Declan was talking about with the cohesion disruption. That obviously doesn't help your team, especially in a team that's been struggling for so long. I think you just need a bit of stability as a platform to then build off.
I mean, Penrith are obviously, Declan, a clear benchmark, and they were close to their very best on the weekend. That was a Penrith special, what they produced on the weekend. But I was just interested when you mentioned that player off the bench, and I can't remember his name either. I got no idea. But my question was going to be, is that a talent thing, or is that purely a coaching and system thing that players we've never heard of can look so much better in a Penrith team compared to, say, a West Tigers team?
I think it's a cultural thing in the sense that because they're playing with better players or they're training with better players on their path to first grade. Like from the very moment they come into the squad, they kind of have to get to the level or somewhere near that level of like the Moses Leotas, Lindsay Smiths, and the Isaiahs before they're ready to come into first grade. Whereas teams like us, we tend to blood players a little bit earlier to give them opportunity to learn in first grade. But in the kind of top end teams, it's kind of the opposite, where they kind of have to learn in a reserve grade because they're not yet ready to play at the intensity and the level that is required of Penrith to like go deep into the finals. So when they do come into first grade, they're just a lot more ready to hit the ground running. And also, like he was coming off the bench, Penrith were pretty dominant. So, you know, like not like credit to him, it was a really good run, but yeah, I'm not like I wouldn't say that we are like as Joe would like to say the most physical side with these sort of things, and I think we were kind of like confident shot as well. But I do think there is something to be said about like these teams have more time to develop their players than we do because younger players at our club are kind of, as we saw with the De Silva thing, if they're not playing first grade, they kind of want to leave. But because Penrith have that success, I think they're willing to kind of stay because they want to be part of that Premiership push at that club, which we don't have at the moment. So it's kind of a catch-22, but that's just a difference I see at the moment.
We've spoken, Nick, a lot about our attack this year. I think that's because we feel most of our good players are in that spine, Buller and Appy and Luai, and we've been frustrated how clunky it looks. But I still think there's grounds for optimism there. But the main concern I have at the moment is this forward pack, whether it's contact, collision, line speed, physicality. Like Terrell May is probably our only forward outside of Appy at 9 that other teams look at. And Penrith, both times we played, interesting stat, both times we played Penrith, they've made him do 50 tackles. And the other teams have been making him do 38, 39. So they just went at him and tired him out. And I think it was his least run meters he's had for 10 weeks. And there's just not a lot of variety or punch in the middle of the field. I know it was difficult on the weekend because Alex Seyfarth and Tony Suker on the edge. Ideally, we have Samuela and we have KPP next year. But the rest of that bench and starting forward pack really got smashed when they went one out.
Yeah, they did. Look, I'm a huge Terrell fan. I love him, and I wouldn't replace him for anyone. He's a massive workhorse, and like you've pointed out, Eddie, he's on the field for so long. He's going to be a target, and he's going to be a dominant forward. So if opposition teams can get on top of Terrell, and I did notice in the second half that he's very hard to bring down, but when they do bring him down, they tend to get him onto his back fairly easily, and because he's such a big boy, that slows the play to ball down as well. But he's doing a lot of work, but he doesn't have that high impact speed that I would say someone like Fanua Bole has when he is playing at his best. And like you said, Declan, I don't think we've seen the best of Fanua this season. He's shown patches of it, but consistently, I think we've missed that a little bit. And I know he had a little bit of time out with injury as well during the year, but we need someone like Fanua at his best. We need probably another one or two players like that too. I know we went out and bought Royce Hunt during the off season. You know, he's not he's not the quickest prop, but he's a big barnstorming prop. It's so frustrating that he can't get back into the team. And whether they're trying to get his minutes up in cup, whether he's got to meet fitness standards to get back into the first grade team, if that's the sole reason, I'm not quite sure. But we definitely need that high impact forward that can produce at least 40 minutes, of the game as well to give us a bit more of a platform. But Alex Twal, I love him. Him and Seyfarth, they're toilers, but that's probably all they're ever going to be. They're not going to bend the line over when they run the ball up. They're never going to stop trying. That's what I love about those two guys. And I know Richo said it in a pod a little while ago that you need players like that, and you do, but you need guys additionally to that have a point of difference and that can make an impact on a game. So I think we're a little bit short.
I'm just hovering around this sort of question again, Declan, around playing roster versus coaching and which one's sort of more culpable for losing 8 of our last 10. But I'll just give you these 4 names who are in our starting pack. And you just tell me yes or no whether you think they'd start for most NRL teams. Alex Seyfarth,
No,
Tony Sukkar,
no,
Alex Twal,
probably not.
Adam Dewey.
No.
Okay, and I'll give you our bench, and you tell me how many of these guys would make the bench at other NRL clubs. Tristan Hope,
No,
Jack Bird,
no,
Fanua Pole,
yes.
and one who's the last final? Forgot his first name.
Sione.
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 He would. I think he would. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple, but that's out of the eight guys I've asked you. You've given me probably two and a half yeses out of eight in that forward pack. Is there anyone within the club that we're missing currently, or do we have to go and recruit Nick in this area? I know KPP is coming, and Samuel is coming back, so the edge back row is looking a lot better. But the middle of the field, for me, there's just not enough punch.
Yeah, I agree. I have an alternate opinion that I did put on sort of forum. No, actually, I put it on Facebook in our podcast Facebook group, and I got shot down pretty hard. But if you just, and Gary would be sitting there shaking his head if he was listening. But with Jock Madden coming in next year, and I know he's not Adam Reynolds, but I can see a benefit of moving Latu Fainu back to the 13 jersey, only because I think he's got great ball skills. He's got a great passing game. He could easily stand in the middle and deliver it left or right, depending on what he sees. He's a really good defender as well. I think he's got a point of difference over Adam Dewey. I think Jock Madden's got a bit more experience the last couple of seasons playing under Adam Reynolds and learning about game management. And you let Jerome, do the Jerome thing, in the number six jersey. I could see that working. But that's based on the squad that we've got, going forward into next season. So obviously there's still an opportunity to recruit. If we're going to recruit, if we're not going to find someone like Adam Reynolds, or if we're not going to find another Isaiah Yo, um, I don't know who you bring in. I have heard a few people. I think I heard Rob on the West Tigers Life podcast talking about needing some back rowers, additional back rowers coming in to our team to strengthen us up. While I really like KPP and Sam Fainu starting, it does worry me a little bit if one of them goes down, like we've seen with Samuela. Who do you bring in? Because it's kind of like a massive pothole, isn't it? Like you lose Sam and you're patching a hole with Seyfarth or Suka. Um, I don't mind Suka, but it's really dropping down in quality there. So there is some work to do.
Vanilla Pole, Declan, I don't know whether he's lost confidence or whether it's when he's come back from injury, but I feel like he's the one that at the start of the year was firing alongside Terrell, whether he's on the bench or starting, and he's really dropped off. I think that's hurt us.
Well, Nick said, which I think is a good point. He is coming back from an injury, so we don't really know how that has like
Been
impacted him.
back for
But
about 6 weeks though from an injury. It's not like he's 1 week back.
yeah, but you never know like what he's carrying or if he's still like playing 100%. Like we just don't know those things. But I think with me, when I see him, I think when he makes like a really poor miss, like that dents his confidence for his entire game. And he made some poor ones against the Gold Coast last week, and he's also known to drop a ball. And I remember him saying in a press conference that like he's a real kind of like confidence player, and Benji's been doing a lot of work with him on like trying to like stay in the game, stay like positive and like back himself. So I could imagine when you miss tackles, when you drop easy ball, then that can impact your whole performance. And at the moment, I think that that's probably it. But besides the injury part to it, but I do agree a bit. I think we've needed more from him. And like when we were, and it's interesting because when he was starting and playing well at the start of the year, we looked like a much better rounded forward pack because we had Cheryl May, the kind of workhorse in the middle, but then like Pole would have that impact off the bench along with Hunt. So having him out of form has really hurt us a lot.
We'll circle back, boys, to talking about Jock Madden because I don't think we have done that yet on the podcast and talk a little bit more about the halves. But Benji's press conference, Nick, I didn't learn a whole lot. It was a fairly brief one. He got a bit of flack for saying, we tried to play like Penrith, but I don't think he really meant that if you watch the whole press conference. I think he was basically saying we were in the grind with them for 20 or 25 minutes and then they just strangled us out of it.
100%. They played like a boa constrictor, really. And I do agree, actually. That first 20 minutes, it was set for set. I don't think our completion rate was too bad. I actually thought we were playing some
Well, we
decent
were
footy.
19 from 21 the first half.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We kicked, that penalty goal to go 2 points in front, and then I think we had another set or two after that before Penrith scored. So I didn't think it was actually too bad. And I haven't rewatched the whole game, Eddie. I have watched the highlights a couple times, and that was enough for me. But Penrith were clinical. Like their completion rate was through the roof. And I was listening, I think it was Triple M on Sunday coming home from golf. They were talking about how good Penrith were, and they're hitting their straps, at the right end of the season. And wasn't that long ago they were running 17th on the table, which is ridiculous. And you look at the way they are putting their games together. It's all basic stuff. It's really strong running. The intensity's huge from the start, and they carry it through to the 80th minute. Nathan Cleary is now playing like that, origin halfback that we wish was in form, a month or so ago. His kicking game was spot on. That kick that he put through for the try, which was actually a knock on, I think it was Isaac Tungo who scored the second last try. That kick was amazing. Like the angle that he managed to put on that grubber to have it bend back towards his attacking players on the right side of the post was freakish. But they're a class above. But I just think we got outclassed. I think Benji was probably speaking the truth. The boys had a go. He obviously had a game plan just to stick with the Panthers for as long as possible, and hopefully you get some mistakes and you get some opportunities. But those opportunities didn't come. But they're playing like a real top four side. Penrith. I don't know if they'll get in the top four, but they're going to give it a shake again.
Oh, if they get in the top four, I reckon they're nearly favourites to win it again.
Yes.
Declan, I like new segments, so I've got a new segment. We've had segments about a rant. We've got Eddie's analytics, which is inverted commas for Eddie's gambling. But this is called Monday Eddie. And it's going to be a positive one because I actually watched the replay today and I've got a few things that maybe some people can just cling to out of this game, out of the wreckage of a 36-2 defeat. The first 25 minutes of both halves, which is what, 65% of the game, roughly. What was the score overall?
Um,
First
would it
25
be
minutes of both halves, combined score.
would it be 14 points to 2?
2-0, Tigers.
Oh,
2-0 after 25 minutes before Penrith scored 18 points. First 25 minutes of the second half remained 18-2. So we got in a grind with them in both halves for 25 minutes. And also in that first 20 minutes, we repelled 19 tackles I counted inside the 20. So they had multiple shots at us. They put on a lot of their pet plays that they like to do. I even thought guys that are going to get a bit of criticism, and rightly so, like on the right edge defence, Toa and Skelton and Latu made a few wrong decisions, but they also made some really good decisions in that first 20 minutes. If you watch it, they made some good tackles. So I actually thought that first 25 minutes was really, really good when I watched the replay. And like I said, I usually don't watch a replay, but 48 hours after the game, I found a few positives there.
oh, Eddie, I have to say, you always surprise me with everything. Positive Eddie on a Monday morning.
We weren't expecting that. It's not a Monday morning, Declan. I don't know if you're in Scotland, but it's a Monday night.
Okay, whatever. But yeah, I just can't get my head. I just never expect what you're going to say in these things. But I don't know. I get what you mean with the defense, but we had a few cracks in their 20 also in the first half that we really should have been scoring if we had any sort of hope of like winning the game. We took the 2 points, which I kind of understand, just to
Is that the
get
right call?
something.
A lot of coaches
Uh,
do that, don't they? To be fair.
yeah, because obviously the plan was to grind it out with them. So take the 2 points on offer, get something out. But ideally, they needed to score like soon after that. And then when Penrith, I agree, like the first two tries, like it didn't feel like the game was completely gone. But once they got to a third, then Penrith, it's not like them to give up a lead like that, and that's probably deflating because the Tigers probably know that as well. Like if they were any chance, they'd have to keep it within two scores, which they didn't manage to do. So I get what you mean. Like I think it's one of those things with like the team is like a whole this week. You're not really accusing many players of like just a poor attitude and defense. Like a lot of the time, although I do think that we're starting to see a little bit of that creep in with some players, but yeah, either it's like a lack of talent, a lack of concentration, and stuff like that. But it's all coming together to create a kind of ugly canvas at the moment.
I watched the game, rewatched it, Nick, for a couple of reasons. Like I wasn't watching that closely in the pub Saturday because we were a long way behind. And then I'd read a lot on Twitter and stuff about a lot of criticism around Benji Marshall and the game plan. And I thought, I want to have a look at this. And I thought, and I'm not rugby league coach or whatever, I actually thought the first 25 minutes, because the criticism was oh, we just tried to play like Penrith. We went one out. Of course, we were going to get smashed. The first 25 minutes, I reckon I counted 8 of the first 10 sets. We actually shifted early in the tackle and made a little bit of
Yeah.
yardage. And there was Taylor May getting held up over the line, which we nearly scored. There was Jerome's kick for Appy, which we nearly scored off, which was a dropout. I actually thought we threw a lot at them in the first 25 minutes and just didn't get any reward.
Completely agree. That Taylor May, no try where he was held up. How often does that happen? Where one of our players makes a half break or a break, gets tackled a couple meters before the line, slides across, and as they slide across, the ball goes from on the ground to up in the air, and they're held up. Like that just seems to happen more often than not. And then on the flip side, you've got Penrith's, was it Lindsay Smith's try? I can't remember which one it was tackled a couple of meters short of the line and just fell over the line or on the line to put the ball down. So we seem to get those things go against us a lot. I did like, Eddie, you just mentioned there that quite a few times early on that we shifted the ball on the first or second tackle out left and right, and we did make some grounds that way as well, rather than just the one out hit up.
That
So
was the only way we were making ground, really.
it was, and I didn't mind seeing that. So, and we were pretty thorough with the way that we did that. We didn't make too many errors either, so that was working. But yeah, we just lacked that knockout punch. But yeah, you highlighted a few opportunities we had. Just we couldn't ice the cake.
But I don't know. I just look at a team like Penrith, and like, yes, they're obviously heading form, but as we all kind of said, they had a few opportunities on our line, and they repelled them. But then they came up with a different picture and threw something a little bit different at us with that short ball from Yo to Lindsay Smith, which just completely got us
This
off
is
guard
class,
because.
though, isn't it, Declan? Class
But
from.
it's also it's class, it's talent, but it's also like game smarts and awareness to go like a slightly outside the plan and offer something different for the defense to react to. But us on the other hand, it was clearly like we had only like a few bars in the hymn sheet to score off of, and when that wasn't working, it was just deflating. But you can tell that obviously because their evolution as a team is four-time premiers, they're going to have that. But I just think that that's something that we're going to really need to build to is to try and break down defenses in different ways rather than just like try and spread the ball to Taylor May, get him one on one. We're going to have to show a lot more creativity because we're nowhere near that.
Didn't Penrith target our right side? Like they
Well,
were their attack was pretty full on, but the way that Stafford and Giroud were backing off, they were sort of holding in defence and backing off, even when right on our try line. Like they just looked like deer in the headlights. They looked like they didn't know what to do defensively.
they're copying a lot of criticism, and rightly so, because the second and the third try, I actually thought the second try, rewatching it, which was when they just went down a short side and scored easily, I thought Latu was really lazy at marker and essentially gave Toa and Skelton almost no chance to defend that. But the third one was shocking, like Declan said. Like 2 minutes before half time, how many times has this happened to us? You're still in the game at 12-2. They get the ball 2 meters out from their own try line with 2 minutes to go, and they do a shift 80 meters out. They make a break, and Skelton and Toa were just arm grabbing Declan on both of those. That was a killer.
Yeah, I think particularly Toa has really come into his game the last few weeks. Just his like tackle technique. Like I remember he had this one try where that Warriors back rower just had maybe centimeters to work with from the sideline, but because Toa went in arm grabbing, he managed to pump his chest, and the Warriors player scored. Like obviously we'd already kind of lost the game by the end, but I just think it's a real worry that the laziness is starting to creep into his game. I don't know. It's kind of the same with Poley. Like he's clearly playing hard, and I don't know what his injury is. So I'm hesitant to like 100% go in on him because I don't know if maybe like that's part of the reason because he was defending like pretty well at the start of the season, and it wasn't an issue, but now it is. Maybe that's like an attitude thing. Maybe that's just a kind of like he's on the wrong page with Skeldon and they're getting exposed and he's not getting himself in the right position to get the shoulder. And I'm not sure, but it's one of those things where I think that if we were like a team with stronger depth, then both of them, like you could argue, should be dropped for next week because it just wasn't good enough.
It was just so Penrith. Like they identified Terrell May, Nick, in the middle that they want to make him make 50 tackles, and they went after Skelton and Toa. And I actually, like I said earlier, I thought those guys actually made some good plays that no one's talking about, like defending bombs and diffusing raids, but they also made some poor plays. And I questioned Stafford Toe at the start of the year around little things like his body language and his want every week. I'm starting to worry a little bit. I thought his first 12 weeks was really good, consistent. And I think Skelton, since he's come back the second time from injury, is also just struggling a little bit with the week to week grind of first grade.
I agree. What was the game? Was it the Roosters or the Warriors game where Toa injured either
Can't
his wrist
remember.
or his elbow?
Can't remember.
But it was late in the game, and he's been carrying that for a few weeks. And I know that we've been covering someone that can cover for him in the centre spot on the bench the last few weeks as 18th man. But we haven't needed it. But there's something not quite right with Stafford. Yeah, Giroud looks like he's regressed a little bit, in my opinion, as well, Eddie. But just one player I want to really give a rap to is Sunu Taruva. He was amazing on the weekends. The amount of hit ups he makes, he's almost Brian Toto like he's making 1 to 2 hit ups every set, and just the speed and intensity he hits the line with is incredible. Like sometimes I was sitting back there watching each set, and every second or fourth tackle he comes through over again. I'm thinking, where are the forwards? Like, why don't we have forwards doing 1 or 2 runs every set? And there's this little winger slash fullback or fill in fullback at the moment that's doing all the workload. But if everyone in the team could up their intensity and be more like Taruva, we'd be a much better team
He's
for it.
he's a fabulous footballer, Declan Taruva. He's clearly my favourite player in this team. And it's interesting, like watching that game today again, you can still see the Penrith qualities in some of our guys that used to play for Penrith. Like Taylor May, I thought was really good in a well-beaten side. I thought Appy and Jerome really competed, and I thought Taruva, despite playing out of position, I think he ran 286 metres, which was close. I think Dylan Edwards ran 322, but there's just no quit in Taruva. I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, I think a lot of that would probably come down to the fact they're playing their ex-club.
But he,
Like I
he
think
does it
when
every week, Taruva. He doesn't pick and choose when to put in.
no, I think they
I'm
do,
talking
but
all the Penrith guys.
yeah, all the Penrith guys,
Sorry.
like obviously when you play like your mates and the team you used to play for, obviously you're going to want to get like a good account of yourself because you want to win. But yeah, Truba's been super consistent. I just really wish he was back on the wing and Brilla was there because it's just they just complement each other really really well. Because I do think that like Truba's like playing really really hard, but we just lack that extra creativity and that extra ball player because he just doesn't necessarily have it and he can do all that great stuff from the wing still. But I feel bad because I'm just the one being negative, and you guys are trying to be positive. I'm just dragging the conversation down. So,
It's a role reversal tonight, Declan.
yeah,
But Jerome, like again, I saw some positives in his game. Nick, I got to be honest. Like I know the pay packet, obviously, there's going to be more attention, and he's come to the Tigers and he talked it up and said, we're going to turn it around. So I get the scrutiny. I don't think he's playing a hell of a lot better, a hell of a lot different than he did at Penrith. I watched him closely last year. I don't think he's been much worse. I don't think he's been much better. I think he plays typical sort of Jerome Luai game, and I think we've found that out that nah, seven's not really his position. I thought there were moments in that first 25 minutes where a couple of short side plays, he put away Taylor May, that kick for Api Coruscant, but there's other moments that you just can't do. Kick out on the full. There was one short
Yep.
side kick where there was nothing on when we had him on the ropes. It was a bit of a mixed bag again.
Jerome's got that habit of a little bit Benji like the occasional kick out in the full or the occasional poor pass. And he did it in Origin as well. I think in that was it game 2 where he kicked out in the full in one of our early sets there. But I kind of agree, Eddie. I think Jerome's obviously trying his butt out. I think when you look at the way that Penrith play against how West Tigers play, and we spoke about it earlier, Penrith play with that little bit more intensity and that little bit more speed and that little bit more power, which obviously gives players like Jerome, who is quick and agile, to be able to create off the back of that. And I think if you slow down that Penrith team 5% to what the speed that the West Tigers play, it kind of hinders those attacking players, especially Jerome, Lazio, who are up at the front, trying to create off the back of what your forwards are doing. So that is a big issue, and that comes back to us really needing an impact prop, or if not one, two going into next year. I don't know who's available anymore, but that's definitely a hole that we need to plug.
He's copying a fair bit of criticism from Tigers fans, Declan. Do you think it's fair? Like, I think at least, like maybe Appy realised 2 years ago, he thought he could come in and turn this around, and now he's realising the enormity of the playing for the West Tigers and what it means. Because I don't think he's playing worse than he did last year for Penrith, but he's just not having the same impact on results.
Yeah, I think it's pretty unfair to be honest, because like he's, as you said, like coming in from the Premiership, the Premier team where your confidence is at a high, and like obviously the confidence is good because that's what we need to back ourselves. But I don't think anyone like rationally thought that he was going to come in and we are going to like be an automatic finals pick. Like we are kind of like obviously I think we all kind of picked to be a little bit ahead at the moment in terms of like maybe being like 10th or 11th, not like fighting it for the spoon still. But I think that like he's been a net positive in terms of like the off-field culture. In terms of the on-field, I was hoping for a little bit better at where we currently are because I thought that as opposed to Penrith, because he'd get more touches of the ball, that he'd have more chance to show his quality. Now that hasn't 100% came through, but at the end of the day, like we've made a long-term commitment to this player. He's one of the captains of the club. I don't think we can throw the baby out with the bathwater just because we're not where we were. We're not where we want to be 1 year into his contract. And I just look at, there's two more NRL teams coming in very, very soon. They're going to have lots of salary cap money. Like everyone talks about how, he's not what the marquee player we need. But I just don't see a hope in hell of like getting anyone like close to his quality with all this like market competition. I honestly think that we should be thankful that we have someone like him, even though we're not like where we want to be at a team yet. But there's still so much like time to turn it around. So I do think the criticism has been a bit harsh, and it's just as you said, the pay packet when like we lose, it's just the first thing people will go to because that's people's expectation of what a half should do. So it makes sense, but I think it's harsh, and I don't agree with it.
If I can ask you a question, Eddie, let's wind the clock back, well, it's probably a couple of years now since he said he was coming, but if we did not have Jerome Luai this season, if he didn't come to the club, where would we be right now?
Yeah,
And
I
what
think
type of footy would we be playing?
I think we'd be 2 or 3 wins worse off, and it's all relative. Like people will say, oh, if he's worth 2 wins over the season, that's not much. But if you're coming off a low base where you've won 4 games for 3 years in a row or 5 games, if you can get to 8 or 9 games, that is a significant improvement. And it's also what he can bring in terms of recruitment the next couple of years, potentially
Yep.
getting Taruva over, etc., and Appy to stay. So I think, like Declan said, the on-field football's maybe at times been a little bit airy-fairy the way he's played. I don't think he adapted to playing halfback. I don't think he is going to play halfback again for us, but I don't think he's playing badly, Declan.
And I've seen the argument that like we could reallocate like his the money he's on to a cheaper half with like similar results. And I just don't buy that because rugby league, it's not like football where you can get rid of a player's wages and you have like a massive kind of talent pool that you can kind of reinvest. Like the market in rugby league is so skinny at the moment that I just don't think there's anyone that we could realistically get at the moment that would bring the impact. And as you said, like the kind of marketability and the ability to use him as a kind of recruitment figurehead because there's just nothing at the moment. And before that as well, like how many times did we miss out on one of these marquee players like the Trail, like Mitchell Moses, Josh Carr, and then when we do sign them and they don't hit the ground running, like we're forced to criticize them. Like it just, I think it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit with them as at times. And like obviously like people are entitled to criticize. Like I'm not gonna tell them not to, but yeah, I just see it's a little bit self-destructive at this point.
Let's do the back half of the one-word submissions from the forum. Osmo7 went with urgency, said there was a lack of desire to do the basics well in terms of kick chase and running hard. Tigersman had the number 18 in the 18th minute, 2 points. He said that actually increased Penrith's confidence because he thought that meant that we couldn't score on them, and they took that attitude into the rest of the game. He reckons all teams below us are playing much better, but he said Taylor and Taruva tried really hard. London Tiger went with mongrel. We lack it, especially in the forwards. Terrell's doing the job of 2. We're running on empty. Kiwi Tiger said Richo, something has to be done. 5 hit-ups and a kick. Playing roster's bad. Coaching's not much better. I'm paraphrasing here. Mr. Anonymous 26 just went with uncoached. Tiger Town SFS's word was contest. We never contest bombs at the end of set. Teddy S said up tempo. We don't have it in us in attack or defence. Tiger's eyes word was starch. We lack it. No punch that we don't get the line. He said how good is Taruva? Time to get rid of Toa. CQ Tiger said orange. There's no juice left in the orange. Tiger Symmetry, he was more on the positive side. It's time to remain calm, he said. No tantrums. Thank you, Tiger Symmetry. I'll take that on board. He said the roster is improving. We still need two impact forwards. It's slow progress. Tiger Tragic 56 said free. Nick, he said I'm free because he's decided he's not going to watch the Tigers for the rest of the year. And Matt V Tiger said suffocated. The Panthers are relentless. So thank you everyone for your submissions, despite the fact it took me an hour to write all those out. Nick, you mentioned Jock Madden earlier. I think it's a good signing. I know he hasn't played any first grade this year, but I thought he was coming along quite well when in his previous incarnation at the club. He would have learned a bit off Adam Reynolds, being in a pretty good system up at Brisbane. He comes back. I think he'll probably be the backup path. I think Latu will be the number 7. But there is a little bit of a unknown at the moment around Adam Dewey, what he's going to do. Where do you see him fitting in, Jock Madden?
I'm under the same understanding that I think Jock has been signed as a backup half, but he's played a bit of NRL, and I can see him adding value, like I said earlier. So I do think Latu's obviously been, told by Benji that he's the number 7 going forward, and I don't expect that to change. However, saying that, before Latu was given the 7 jersey, when he was coming off the bench and playing a bit of 13, I thought he was quite dangerous in that role, which is why I thought I could actually see him going back there, even if it's for a short period of time or at intervals, even to add something a bit different. So, yeah, AD, be interesting to see what happens with AD. I don't think he'll be here. I think he might maybe end up at the Dragons again. I know he was almost there for this season. I think he did a preseason health examination or health test or fitness test and didn't quite end up there for whatever the reason might be. But yeah, Jock coming back home, I think he'll definitely add some value to Tigers next season.
Where do you see him fitting, Declan? Jock Madden.
I mean, it's pretty clear that he'll be like the second string 7, come in, maybe play a little bit of 5/8 if we're injured as well. But yeah, he'd be the first kind of half off the rank to cover injuries. Obviously, he'll back himself to make it in the first grade team at some point. But I just think that Latu has been given the go ahead to be like the long term 7, so we should at least try and see what that looks like longer. And so I'm not sure that although I do love Madden from his first stint at the club, I'm just not sure that he has like the consistent like creativity to be like a first picked 7 in the NRL yet, which isn't to say that he won't develop it, because he might. But I just thought that, when he was at the club this first time, he was like really good and reliable in terms of that kind of like pure halfback stuff. But in terms of his creativity, it was lacking a little bit. So we'll see if that's any different this time. But I'm really happy he's back at the club. By all reports, he was a great kind of person to be around the club. I think he's doing a lot of like community work up in Brisbane as well, which has been nominated for what's the Community Spirit Award for the Dally M's? Yeah, but I think he's been nominated for that, so that's good to see as a bit of a side. So yeah, I think he's a good person having around the club. Glad he's back. I think he's probably better half depth than what we have in New South Wales Cup at the moment. So slowly but surely, we're kind of fixing that depth that we're kind of complaining about at the squad. So yeah, I think it's a good one overall.
The only thing I'll ask you, Declan, Latu Fainu, is he a 6? Because to me, he's a 5'8", more a 5'8" than a halfback.
It's Latu. I know hasn't played much footy the last couple of years, Declan, so I've been treading quite lightly around Latu the last few weeks because he's finding his way. New halves partner, dominant guy in Jerome. I think he's been a bit submissive the past couple of weeks playing with Jerome and then with Adam in the middle as well. Do you think he's taken a step back in terms of calling for the ball and demanding a bit more ball?
I think it's difficult because um, like he is that his job is to straighten the attack, to give good clean ball to like people outside him. So it looks like yeah, he needs to run the ball a little bit more. It is a little bit annoying because all that talk about when Galvin left was that actually like Luai and Latu's combination is better anyway. So like that's like it could be like a long term good thing. I think that they have kind of not really, I wouldn't say they haven't clicked because they have at some points, but it just hasn't been kind of what I expected because you're right, Latu hasn't really ran the ball that much and yeah, they're just kind of treading on each other's toes, so it hasn't been as clean as I'd hoped it'd been. But I just remember
Is
this what
difficult though, Declan. Like I think we're all guilty of, straight away after a loss we go to the halves, but when your forward pack's getting smashed, it must be difficult on the field there.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I do think there is something because I just remember like the first trial game against the Bulldogs. Latu was playing seven that game as well, and he just didn't take the game by the scruff of the neck. I know that's a cliche, but he just didn't like go for anything. Like he kind of was through the motions, like passing, setting up for others people, not really going outside the script. And I can see him like he's kind of doing a little bit of that right now. Like maybe he's not confident enough to go outside the script because obviously Jerome's a senior half, but I think we need a little bit more variety as we've kind of talked about in this podcast, and I would like to see him run the ball more. I know that we said we probably all agree that Jerome isn't like a seven, but I would like to see him still like be the dominant playmaker and take some of that pressure off Latu so that he can run the ball more. I think that's on him as the senior half to do. And hopefully they kind of gel a little bit more. But yeah, a little bit disappointing. But yeah, at the end of the day, what you said is true. Like Penrith are smashing them. Like they're just when they're on, they're probably the best defense in the comp. And they knew like because we didn't have Bula and Turvo was playing fullback, we had like one less. They had one less ball player that they had to worry about, which makes it easier to shut down our ball players. And we also couldn't really get in their half either, which makes it easier for them, difficult for us. So yeah, so not massively concerned, but we'd just like to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Benji got a bit of criticism or questions for taking him off. I wouldn't read too much into that. Like he's been on minutes restrictions the past couple of years. We're getting thumped. 15 minutes to go. I think if I wouldn't be expecting that to happen most weeks if it's a close game. I think he is the number seven, and we're going to persist with it in the short to medium term. Just my last point, Nick, on my new segment, Monday Eddie, because it's the positive side. It's coming out today. Uh, Benji Marshall, I've got same concerns a lot of Tigers fans have, but I just had a look today. I know it's another sport, but I'm new to the Twitter sphere, Nick. I've made a Twitter account and I'm just working out what a cesspit that is in Twitter. But I have made a few brave sort of posts. But I made a post today saying, I know you don't follow AFL and probably most rugby league fans don't, but North Melbourne Kangaroos have been the West Tigers the last 10 years. They have been right down the bottom for a decade. And you know who they got? They got a four-time premiership winning coach from Hawthorn, Alistair Clarkson, signed a 5-year deal 3 years ago. And he's won 10 games in 3 years.
Wow.
3 wins, 4 wins. Benji's won 13 games in 2 years. So that's just a little bit, I think, of a reality check of what it's like to turn around. I called it a terminally ill club on Twitter, Nick. That was maybe a little bit harsh, but a very ill club that's at the bottom. We're not quite, the Bulldogs haven't reached our depth. The Dragons haven't reached our depths. We've reached the complete depths the past decade. And if a premiership coach in another code's won 10 games in 3 years, maybe we should just back off Benji a little bit for winning 13 games in 2 years. Your thoughts?
Are you suggesting Benji should take up AFL coaching?
Well, well, I saw a few fans actually back me on Twitter and said, well, Benji maybe should get the blame for what's going on at North Melbourne Kangaroos. But no, I don't suggest he takes up AFL coaching. I don't watch North Melbourne play or any AFL. I just thought it was an interesting comparison. That'll do. Talking about the game, boys. Declan. I want to see Macassini play. I don't think this is the week for it because I think the Bulldogs are Penrith Mark II. They will target him, and it will be a really, really difficult debut. I think I would wait till after the bye and pick a game out of those last four for him to play.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree with you. I mean, you never know. Like we
You
could.
hate agreeing with me, don't you? You said that with such pain, like, oh, I tend to. Jesus, I've got to agree.
No, like the honesty is that I just really don't want to play the Bulldogs. Like, 'cause I just don't want to watch Lachlan Galvin, and I don't want to read our messenger group with you saying how good Lachlan Galvin is. I'm actually dreading it, like for this weekend. So the very thought of even like talking about the game makes me want to shiver and recoil. But yeah, I tend to agree. It's not the. I just don't see the utility in it for us, oh, unless there's an injury. Because if there's an injury, then it is what it is. If he's in the first grade squad, but yeah, I'll be playing them soon just to like have a little bit of like something interesting to see for the future. But yeah, like my gut is also telling me that this isn't the week.
Yeah, I won't be out there at Combank. I don't want to sit out there, Nick, with 20,000 Canterbury fans. They can be terrible at the best of times, and they're probably going to win the game. So I won't be out there, but I do think we'll actually put in a really good performance this week. I've got a funny feeling they're not just going to talk it up because they have talked it up, I think, a bit too much this year about how much they love Benji and not shown it the next week on the field. I think they will show it this week, and I think it will be a close game against the Bulldogs. But I won't be out there to see it.
I hope you're right. I don't have the same feeling. I have the opposite feeling. I
Yep.
feel quite sick actually thinking about the potential result this coming Sunday. However, saying that, I hope you're right, Eddie. I really, really hope that someone like Fanua Pole can line up Lockie Galvin early as Lockie Galvin's about to receive a ball at first receiver and get absolutely hammered by his massive shoulder in Lockie Galvin's ribs. And I hope it knocks the wind out of him for about
See,
45
Nick,
minutes.
if it was us coaching, we would be, really trivial like that and say, boys, if we're down by 30, just someone take him out and break his leg or something. I know you can't say that as a coach, but Declan's got his thumbs up, so he's happy with that game plan. Nick, you know, I breathed a big sigh of relief last week because I thought we beat Gold Coast. We got the breathing space, and of course, they come out and beat the Warriors. And then Parramatta come out and beat Brisbane. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, all of a sudden, this wooden spoon race is still on. Like, we've got to seriously, I don't think we'll win this week, but the last four games, we need another win. And I know we should be looking at another two wins because there's winnable games there. There's Manly at the SFS, there's Cowboys at Leichhardt, there's Titans in the last round. It would be hideous to go winless and get a wooden spoon.
It would, wouldn't it? But where's the wind coming from? So this
Well,
week's going to be tough. I hope you're right that we
no,
put in a good
I'm not
performance.
saying
But
they're going to be favourites. I'm just saying Cowboys at Leichhardt, I think it's a 50-50 game. I think
yep,
Titans on the Gold Coast, I wouldn't be confident, but it's winnable. And Manly at
yep,
SFS, yeah, I mean, that's great. Well, why are we playing at the SFS? Should be at Leichhardt, but anyway, it's at the SFS. That's somewhat winnable based on what I saw yesterday.
yeah, I agree. We could win those games. The Cowboys one at Leichhardt's a big one for me. That's a Sunday afternoon, 4:05 p.m. So another hopefully nice sunny afternoon at Leichhardt at the Old Girl. And I have heard that we're wearing the old 2005 retro jersey. So that will
20-year
be a nice,
anniversary day.
yeah, 20 year anniversary. That'll be a nice fitting tribute as they run out. Just hopefully they don't reverse the result and they put in a good performance. But yeah, hopefully we can give Johnny Bateman a round to remember come around 25 at Leichhardt.
I think the Titans also they don't have any buys left, but we have one still up our sleeve. So if that makes any sort of difference, I think it's something to consider.
Well, I actually think Declan, looking at it, because I've been looking at the wooden spoon race, through a fine-tooth comb all year. It's more
Yeah.
exciting than a premiership race. But I can tell you right now, South play the Gold Coast in a couple of weeks. That's a huge game. I actually think South could go winless, given the amount of injuries they have. I think the Titans are going to win another couple. So as long as they both don't win another couple, because then we've got to win another one. But I don't want to. I don't want to start being negative in the last few minutes. All right, boys, that's Monday podcast done. I think Monday works better than Sunday. I'm in a better mood.
I know it definitely. I like the couple of days, Eddie, just to decompress and forget about the game a bit, and I can have a few drinks in that period of time just to sort of stabilize my emotions a bit. So
Few, few or 1,000.
yeah, just a few thousand.
Yeah.
So yeah, good chance to calm down and
Yeah.
joyfully talk about the
Well,
West
the other
Tigers, the team that
boys,
we all love.
the other boys, they were out in the studio this week doing the collab podcast with Rob. So that was Steve, Gary, and Joel hosted that show. We are still waiting to receive it from the podcast studio, so we will put it out on our platform. We may even be in a position where we put both these pods out tomorrow, Declan. So they'll be like competing for airtime.
Yeah, rumor has it that Gary brought his own gold microphone. So if you're watching on YouTube, keep a lookout for that. We try to tell him not to, but he just insisted, and he can be quite stubborn sometimes. So it's just best to let him do what he wants to.
Rumor has it that Gary's just ordered a gold statue of himself from Temu and he's putting it outside of the studio at Parramatta. So next time you're out Parramatta Way near the station, you walk past, you see a big golden Gary, just give it a tap on the button and say good day to Gary.
Well, big shout out to Gary, boys. Thank you for that. So look out sometime tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have both those podcasts up, and we'll also do a midweek one, probably Wednesday night or Thursday night, given we play Sunday. All right, boys. Thank you. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Boys.